So I guess one of the greatest things about Veeam is that they've managed to leverage this backup repository for what I'd like to consider Tier 3 data, but they've managed to build into the platform a replication design, which allows you to basically create a DRAS. And a DRAS is where you can choose to failover servers immediately into our infrastructure based on the last snap. And Veeam has the ability to snap, I would say, effectively down to the 1 hour mark. So this could give you protection during the middle of the day. If there is a server calamity, you could bring that server up in our cloud in a seamless process right from your Veeam console, and then manipulate the data and bring it live. As long as all the other parts of your DR solution are intact, user experience should be seamless. So in regards to setting up and looking at that replication infrastructure, of course, it's bound to the repository the same way the backup as a service is. And so I walked you through this a second ago, and I mentioned I was going to come back to it. But we saw the resources for backup as a service. They're mentioned here. But then also, these are the resources that are defined for your disaster recovery. And as you can see, we've allocated CPU, memory, storage, and basically a one-to-one fashion as what you are running on the ground, which means that infrastructure is reserved in our data center. It's reserved for your VMs. And in a sense, they are with that reserved infrastructure, you can bring it online in the event of disaster and coordinate with us to make sure that that stays up for as long as you need to do it, and provide any sort of back-level resources, VPN access. We also have disaster recovery DAS, which may be of interest in terms of having user workspace alongside your disaster recovery environment. So let me just complete this here, and I'll show you the replication job that I've created. Go into here and show you some of the details on it. And don't mind the failures. It's been a little fidgety today, but I'm about ready to upgrade the server to 9.5 since it just released. So I'm very excited to get that rolling. Here we have the virtual machines that I'm replicating. Notice how I'm taking actual state virtual machines and not really backups. So I'm targeting the actual VMs themselves for replication. And I'm targeting my host or cluster. This is where the resources were defined for your replication infrastructure. And then I have the job. And notice how it says replication suffix, and it has the number of restore points to keep. These are the number of snaps that I'm going to keep in replica status up in the cloud. So if I'm snapping every hour, I would have 2 hours back of replicas. And we would size that appropriately to match. Most people just need one replica in the cloud of their data. In the event that their site burns to the ground, they can spin up that one replica. It is not a replacement for backup. So in terms of disaster recovery, it's not going to go back very far compared to actual backups as a service. So you're going to want to layer the two technologies together to give you the best protection in the environment. So you can see I have my two replicas here, and of course we can granularly change the compression levels. Of course, you can even optimize the amount of proxy usage, send email alerts, and do CBT tracking on the individual VMs. It's a very great suite. And of course, through the WAN accelerator to improve performance. And then it can even VSS quiesce OS. So if you have SQL or Exchange, that will process VSS aware, and it will quiesce the backend databases to make sure everything's in a stable state as it's transferred up to us. And then, of course, when do you want the job run? When do you want to actually push those replication points to us? It may be that you don't run this all the time, or it may be that you run it every hour. It really depends on what level you're looking to provide up there. Go ahead and exit and go ahead and show you the replicas I have up in the cloud. Here's some examples of the replicas, and particularly managing them is pretty seamless. So I have this one replica, and it has a restore point of 1. I'm going to go ahead and fail over. And it's a fairly seamless process. Pardon my server. It's running just a little slower today than it usually does. But I'll go ahead and hit next. And of course, I can define a reason for that failover. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to our Cloud IaaS. So this is actually my Veeam demo, pardon me. But let me show you the actual IaaS infrastructure. So here we can see our vCloud Director, because we are a VMware shop. We run a vSphere suite. If you use VMware vSphere or vCenter, you're used to most of the settings in here. It's very, very easily understood in terms of tools that you're commonly using. So here we have our replicas, and notice the underscore replica, as well as the tenant ID that's attached. Even without manipulating through Veeam, let's say the Veeam server is dead and gone. In this case, I can still end up in this repository and see those replicas and start them right here in the cloud without calling a failover through Veeam. And we're one of the few CMSPs that provide this level of view into Veeam's replication technology, where we can see the actual VMs inside of a vCloud Director, and you can manipulate them outside of the Veeam console. So in terms of controlling them here, all of this is fully managed on the ground. You can control failovers directly from the actual console. But of course, we provide this other level of visibility into the environment. And of course, this environment, in here we could create customized networking. We have an edge gateway that comes with the platform that provides firewall, NAT, all the granular services that you would like to have around your disaster recovery. And notice how we have this in an inconsistent state at this point. Veeam, from your console, has communicated to our Veeam consoles up in the cloud where your replicas are stored and brought the system up. Now, it doesn't really tell vCloud Director that it's turned it on. So, of course, I can't manipulate it now because Veeam's controlling that VM. But like I said, I could still bring up a VM that's not being manipulated with Veeam. But sure enough, the VM is turned on. We can even see the little Windows background logo, and it is turned on and running in our cloud. And we have full networking access to that VM. Like I said, we can provision IP addresses, manipulate internal LANs, and create organizational structure around it to anticipate that requirement of user access. Maybe you have a site-to-site VPN built out of here. Maybe you have AnyConnect client VPN set up in here. Or maybe you have our DR DAS as a service that's trunked over into this network, and now users log on to a desktop and access this infrastructure that this failed over. Of course, sandboxing and testing, it's sometimes a great idea to be able to have your replicas and then turn them up in our cloud and maybe test that update that you know is going to break. You got a vendor update that's coming down the pike, and you wanted to see if you can install it on a server without destroying the whole production environment. And you got your replicas in the cloud. Let's fail them over for a short little time, maybe alongside of the domain controller, and try out the install. Let's see if it breaks the install. If it does, I mean, it's real simple to undo failover. And then that environment that's sitting up there, that VM that's running, is not affected. I mean, it literally goes back to its replica point that you recently uploaded. So a great way to sort of sandbox an upgrade or to do testing in terms of DR, all managed from your console. Of course, we could go into a permanent failover where your local VMs are turned off, and the ones up in the cloud, and when I say turned off, they're turned off, snapped one last time, and the changes and deltas are pushed up to the cloud, or fail back. So fail back to production is in the sense that our Veeam instance in our cloud will snap your servers that are currently running up there, shut them down, and send the change data back down to you, which you'll write back to your production VMs on your ESX infrastructure, and it will turn your VMs live. And all that's controllable through your Veeam console. Once again, Surety is not it's a zero-based knowledge company, so we're not being able to see these. This tenancy is isolated to you and only you. So as you see your VMs in here, no one else can access this networking. You're in a completely secure environment that you manage and that you construct. Of course, we can assist you with it, but it's not in our business to be involved in any of the construction or management or manipulations of your network. So with that said, very easy controls inside of Veeam to manage all the failover and failback. And of course, you can even set up these replication jobs to cause a failover through Veeam. So if, let's say, you wanted, in a sense, a failover plan, and this is a plan that's designed to maybe monitor certain systems, monitor the status of items in your infrastructure, and then call a failover into our cloud. So that can be a completely automated process where you don't have to intervene. Let's say a server goes down in the middle of the day and you're nowhere near it. These failover plans could cause that failover into our cloud. And with a properly designed infrastructure, you could have everything back and running before you even had time to sit down at a keyboard. So I really think in terms of managing the infrastructure as a whole, it brings a lot of flexibility to administrators to make sure the systems are online and provide that seamless experience for DR. All this integrated into one product. All right, and let me, I'm going to go ahead and undo this failover. Let's go ahead and undo it. There we are. And then, of course, we should see these spin down in here in a minute. But I think that ends the demo portion of this. Let me go ahead and turn it back to the slides.